Please listen carefully to the following menu. If this is an emergency, such as an
I hate this phone. I really fucking hate my phone.
1 moment, please.
It's like the charge doesn't even hold on it. It just like, I'll plug it in and the charge will hold for like 30 minutes and I am going to have to take it to Sprint.
Out control, this and that's an emergency. Can you hold?
Annette, can you transfer me to Stacy? My phone cut off.
This is who?
Ashley?
1 moment. Hello?
Stacy, my phone died. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Yeah, I had to plug it into the wall, so I'm like 3 feet away from the outlet because it's got to stay plugged in or it's going to die again. No, what I'm trying to say is that my dogs were not authorized to be surrendered by anybody but myself.
But what you don't understand is it doesn't work like that. The way that it works is that since you're not the property owner there, and when we leave, let me see if I can give you a more simple example. For example, if you were driving a car and you were caught driving drunk and you had a dog in the car with you, okay? The police usually give someone an opportunity to call someone to get the car and the dog. But if that can't be located, then animal control gets called out and has to pick up the dog. And, of course, a tow truck comes and gets the vehicle. Okay?
Right. But
so
Officer Parr...
Same exact thing that happened with your arrest at Miss Duncan's house. She was not willing to be responsible for your animals. And as soon as that happened, as the property owner, she has the right to tell us to get them off of her property.
Okay, but nobody offered me a chance to arrange for anyone else to take them because I have other people that could have taken my animals if that was the case.
Then why didn't they? No one called here. No one came here until like day 10.
I had several people call, Stacy. And the thing is that you guys supposedly what they were told is that they could not be turned over to them because they were all being held in as evidence. And the thing
that was initially what we believed until we talked to the investigator and was told that we did not have to hold them as evidence. When your dad called, your dad said that he was not interested in getting the animals back and that you couldn't afford to get them back, but he was interested in 2 of the cats.
That's not what my dad told me. My dad specifically told me that he tried to get all of them back and he tried to arrange a transport vehicle. This is my problem. Those are my dogs. They're not my dad's dogs. They're not Tammy's dogs. They're not anybody's dogs but my dogs. My problem is that they were sent out of that facility to a rescue. I was not told as to what rescue they went to. I
don't have to tell you, dear.
I have received very bad treatment from your staff, very rude treatment from your staff.
You know that's not true.
Yes, it is true.
Actually, it is not. We have been over backwards.
I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about other people that have answered the phone. And I have received attitude.
Staff has been told not to speak with you, that you have to speak to a supervisor.
Okay, well, they don't need to treat me rudely when they answer their phone. I understand that they may have a bad, biased opinion towards me, but they are rude, and I have people that can verify that they're rude. When I came to get my cats, Annette was very rude.
Well, unfortunately, I apologize for that.
Okay, well, the only thing that I'm worried about, Stacey, this is my main concern. I want my dogs back. Okay,
you're not going to get them through me. I have already relinquished the city's responsibility of most of the dogs. They are now in the care of rescue groups.
Where are Apollo and Scooby?
You are welcome to put in an open records request to find out that information.
I was told that I have to get the information from Animal Control. I have already gone to the police department, and the police department told me that I have to go to the supervisor of Animal Control to obtain that information, which would be you.
Right, and my answer is, just as the city policy is, when you need record information, you have to go to the open records request. That is the city's policy.
I went down there already. They told me to go
to...
I'm sorry?
Where is the open records request then?
I went down to the city police department where the records section is, and they told me I have to go through Animal Control.
They don't have animal control records, Ashley. Think for a second, would you? We are the only ones that have those records. You have to put in the open records request with my department.
Okay, so where exactly do I need to go for that? Because when I
can either go online or you'll have to come here.
How do I do it online?
I don't know. You have to follow the links. Go to the city website and look for open records request.
Okay.
I've never done it online. I have no idea.
Okay, because I do have access to online and have other places that I have to go today. But it is a problem that my dogs were just sent out of there, and I am going to notify people about it. And I've already contacted every rescue from here through Austin, Houston, and Dallas. My problem is that, Stacy, this is 5 days. Today marks the 5th day from June 11th, which is when my dog was stolen last year. I walked 2,500 miles to find my dog. I do not want anybody to take my dogs. I didn't want anybody to take my dogs. If I wanted that, I would have never paid to get them out in the first place. And I'm very, very upset with your department, and I apologize if you don't feel the same way. But honestly, we live in a world where we are supposed to be non-biased as governmental employees. I was a soldier for 3 years.
I was non-biased, Ashley. I held those dogs for 13 days when I'm only required by law to hold them for 10.
It was biased because I wasn't given the right opportunity to get my dogs to a different location. I was taken in handcuffs and sent to jail. If Tammy didn't want to watch my dogs, we should have arranged something before I was arrested, and that did not happen, and it should have happened, and that was not fair to me or to my dogs.
Well, you kind of got arrested before anybody got a chance to make any sort of arrangements.
Okay, and that's what I'm trying to explain to you. I'm not saying that
I didn't arrest you.
I know that you did not arrest me, but in all fairness and reality, Stacy, if you were to
have no idea about fairness and reality. Let's don't go down that road.
I'm just saying, if you were to put yourself in my position with your dogs, I'm sure you would be equally as upset.
I would never be in your position.
You don't know that until it happens to you.
I do. I would never find myself in the position that you've unfortunately found yourself in.
You don't know that until it unfortunately happens to you, Stacy.
I've been working in the police business for 24 years.
It doesn't matter.
In your position.
That doesn't matter if you've been in the police business. Do you know that I know people that have been in the police business and been in the Army that have been wronged by the system? I was wronged by the system. Multiple times.
I'm sorry to hear that, and you will have your day in court.
I understand that, but at the same time, my dogs are suffering because of a negligence on everyone else's part. My dogs cannot sit there and speak for themselves, and if they could, they would tell you.
Suffering. Not anymore. They have been healed, they're fat and happy, and they're living the life outside of cages, and off they went.
Okay, well, I hope you listened to that recording. Because I did not hurt my dogs, but I'm pretty sure I know who did.
I already listened to it, and unfortunately, because you edited it, it's invalid to even use for any sort of proof.
How is that? It was a 3-hour-long recording. It still got...
The whole 3 hours. We can't take an edited version. We can't let you be the judge and jury of what gets edited out of a recording.
The whole rest of the recording is shit, fuck, shut the fuck up. I mean...
We need it. If you want to be a valid recording, you cannot.
It is a valid recording, and not to mention the fact that it's several different parts of. There are several. My phone didn't stay plugged in for 3 hours. I had to keep re-recording, so there's a lot in there that is
we turned it over to Detective Parr, and he can do with it as he sees necessary.
Well, Detective Parr is not going to be on this case anymore because I've already handled that and rectified that situation because he is a biased individual. He's friends with my landlord. He spoke on an open investigation. He may be a member of the police department, but he can be investigated as well, and he is being investigated as we speak. And I will ensure you that he is going to get pulled out the case. If I got to go to the senator, which I've already done, and the congressman, which I've already done.
I have no jurisdiction over us, so you can save yourself.
I don't have a jurisdiction over you. You're right, but I do know people that do have jurisdictions over you.
The congressmen and all them, they don't.
They do. You're a city government. You're part of the city government. You can be investigated by anybody in the governmental system. State legislature allows that. And just because everybody seems to think that they have this power over people, it's wrong, Stacy. Just because you're in a position of power doesn't mean that you can treat people the way that you do.
Now, wait a minute. You just said I was the nice one here.
I did not say you were a nice one. You have been rude to me before.
Listen, here's the problem.
My dogs are not there, so I'm not in a happy-go-lucky, nice person mode anymore. My dogs are not there. And I don't care if you are sitting here thinking that I'm the worst person scum on the planet. I could give you 20-some-odd other people that believe differently. I could give you other people that know, that have physically seen me with my dogs, but you've never wanted to see them. You've never wanted to talk to them. Nobody's wanted to talk to them. Nobody's put themselves in my position where I want my dogs, Stacy.
Ashley, listen to me. It is not my job to judge you. at all. I have no opinion one way or the other.
Yes, you do. You just told me, oh, your dogs aren't suffering anymore. You basically just blamed that on me. That wasn't because of me, Stacy.
I never said it was
no, that's what nobody's understanding that. Did I get to say anything? No. And I'm not going to say it to Detective Parr because Detective Parr is a crooked cop. He's crooked. And I can't talk to somebody that's crooked. I'm sorry. But I can't. He should not have ever gone to my house and said nothing to my landlord. Not one peep. And I know that. I've spoken to 3 separate attorneys on that situation alone. I just paid you $660 more to get my cats back. I would have paid to get my dogs back had I had that kind of money, but nobody offered me no type of payment plan or anything. And
you're not under any obligation to offer you a payment.
You're not, but you know what? Somebody should have. If you're being fair and non-biased in the situation, then you should have done something else. If you really cared about where my dogs went, you should have allowed them to come back to me because Apollo loves me whether you believe it or not. That is my dog. I love that dog. I love all of my dogs. And I don't know what you want me to tell you. I have told you numerous times. I sat in a jail for 6 hours crying because I found out you took my dogs again. 6 hours, Stacy. Look at the tape. I know they got it recorded.
I'm sorry that you had to go through that.
You're not sorry. Nobody's sorry. If they were sorry, then my dogs wouldn't be in a different location. I would be told as to where they are. I'm sorry?
I feel bad for anybody who has to sit somewhere for 6 hours and cry, no matter what they're crying over. Currently, the only dog that we have of yours here is Scooby. Ashley?
Yes, ma'am. I'm still here.
I thought you were gone again. We have Scooby here, and right at this moment, I have not figured out how much you owe on him, but you owe the $1,500 in vet care and then whatever is owed for Scooby. That's all that's left that you owe. Because once the dogs get transferred out of here, you no longer owe their boarding and stuff.
I understand that, but Stacey, I need to know where my dogs are.
I told you you're welcome to come in and put an open record.
And how long is that going to take for me to get that request? Because I spoke to Xandra Anderson, who is an animal law attorney. She has been featured on numerous amounts of TV shows, and she is a Houston attorney. And if I was in her city, she told me she would have taken my case pro bono because of the amount of information I have. But I don't live close enough to her, and she did inform me that I can get those records as of the same day because they are no longer in your custody. And by me being an owner of those dogs and that being my property, I am authorized to know that same day. I should not have to wait 2 or 3 weeks to get a response.
Ashley, Vandy is under the impression that they were seized and that you did not have a hearing. I have spoken to several of her conferences. If she had the accurate information, she would be a little bit more clear about what's going on.
Well, I told her that my roommates turned them over, and she said that they are not her property to turn over. They were mine.
We have a city ordinance that gives us authority to do those things.
Well, then that city ordinance needs to be changed, and I will ensure that I put in to get it changed because this is wrong. Legitimately, what happened is your government stole my dogs. That's what happened.
That way.
Yes, it is. That's theft. What happened is exactly that. I have never seen my day in court, but everybody seems to think it's okay to just keep taking Ashley's dogs and keep taking Ashley's dogs and putting my dogs through torturous hell by putting them in a fucking pound.
I didn't put rubber bands on them.
I didn't either.
Well, then that's your responsibility to figure out who did or the...
I already told you who I believe did it, and you guys didn't fucking say... You stated that, oh, I don't know if a taser is even considered animal cruelty. I spoke to several other people that believe that that's animal cruelty, to include the SPCA out of Dallas.
See, I was honest with you. I said I didn't know if it could be considered that, so I had to look it up.
Well, it is animal cruelty.
Yeah, in our city ordinance it is. In the state law it's not.
And something needs to be done to her about that.
Well, we're working on that, but unfortunately that doesn't involve you.
No, I know it doesn't involve me, but I was the one that reported it, and I would really hope that somebody would investigate it and get her dogs out of that situation. Because like it or not, and like me or not, those dogs don't deserve that shit.
Well, is there anything else I can do for you?
How long is it going to take for me to get my records back?
The federal government government gives us 10 days to respond. 10 business days. So if you were to come in today or get it online today, we have 10 business days of the data receipt. So, like, for example, if we don't get notified till tomorrow morning, we put it online. We have 10 business days in order to respond. So it could be as much as 14 days if you include weekends.
And I'm sure you guys will take your sweet time doing that so that I can sit here longer and my dogs could possibly get adopted out longer from now. I want my dogs back, Stacy. So please try to get me this in a timely manner. Please.
Well, whenever we get the information, we will provide the information to our attorneys. They have to look it over by law to make sure that we're not giving out private information.
Okay, well, me knowing as to where my dogs were sent to, being that they're my property, is not private information.
They were the property of the city of Killeen.
They're the property of Ashley Nicole Miller. They were never supposed to go to you guys because I've never gone to a hearing. That has been verified by more than one animal law attorney, including.
You're not giving them accurate information. I have 7 attorneys. They all looked at it, and we've done legally correct.
I understand that you may have 7 attorneys, but you have 7 attorneys working for the city of Killeen. I have 3 different attorneys from 3 separate areas of Texas: Houston, Dallas, and Killeen.
I wouldn't call Ms. Anderson your attorney until you've retained her.
I didn't say that she was my attorney. I said I have spoken to 3 attorneys.
I need to call Xander.
And I did speak to Xandra herself, and she did offer to assist me, and she did offer to do it pro bono if my attorney will call her. So, yes, she has offered assistance. Yes, I do know that those dogs should have never been taken out of my custody until I have officially gone to court. That is not how it works in the system. That's not how it worked with the Coryell County case when they had to pay all those fucking fees, because I read about it too. Those animals should have never been surrendered by someone other than the rightful owner of those dogs, which was myself.
Surrendered.
You just told me that Tammy surrendered them over to you.
But it's called a police confiscation. It is not called surrendering.
But you're stating that they were never seized.
Exactly.
That doesn't make any sense. They got to be seized or they got to be surrendered. It's got to be one of the two.
No, ma'am, it doesn't. Confiscation is considered a confiscation. They can be picked up as a stray. You have no idea what you're talking about.
No, a police confiscation is the same as a seizure.
No, ma'am, it's not. A seizure is only when I went before a judge and got a seizure warrant to seize your animals. I did not do that. Therefore, you are not afforded the 10-day hearing opportunity.
I will also state that no warrant was ever issued on that house, so for Detective Parr to have just walked up in that house was a violation of the law in itself. He did not ask permission to enter that residence. He just walked up in that residence. The only person that asked permission was yourself and Officer Keene.
And when I was there and I was commanding the scene, I could have anybody come join me that I felt fit. So unfortunately, that theory doesn't work either. Sorry. You didn't have to have a search warrant to come in.
Well, they do have to have a warrant to take my dogs on a confiscation, and they didn't have that. And I know that because it's in the Section 8-21. I read it.
I don't even know what you're reading from Section 8-21.
If you read up Section 8-21 of the Health and Safety Code, you can pull up how cruelty seizure cases go.
Okay, yours is not a cruelty seizure, Ashley.
That's what I was informed of by the police department, because I just tried to go down there to file.
I did not get a seizure warrant to seize your animals. Therefore, I do not have to do the cruelty hearing.
I just spoke to the Killeen Police Department and sat in front of their desk to file a theft report, and they specifically stated to me that the reason as to why my dogs were taken was because I was arrested on a cruelty case, and my dogs were seized from that residence. It's in their report due to that nature.
Okay, unfortunately, they're telling you, they're using the right words, but it is inaccurate. I did not, Detective Parr did not, the city of Killeen did not have a seizure warrant and seize your animals. It was a police confiscation. That is in our city ordinance. You would not, now if we had gotten a warrant and we had come to the house and said, we're seizing these animals, here's your notification of a hearing, you would have gotten a hearing. But we did not do that. We did a police confiscation.
Okay, but my dogs were awarded custody to you through some sort of a hearing, and it has to go through a judge.
No, it doesn't.
Then how were my dogs given to you by custodial rights? They're my property. Unfortunately, that's what they're viewed as, so we're just going to speak in law terms here. Dogs are viewed as property, unfortunately. I don't consider them to be property. I consider them to be my dogs. I consider them to be my kids. But that's what they call it down here. So, in all reality, my dogs, quote-unquote property, were taken from me in a fashion that should not have occurred. I did not state that my dogs could go to anybody. I didn't say anything in regards to my dogs. I was arrested. I wasn't allowed to talk about my dogs. And that's wrong.
Ashley, you asked Miss Duncan.
I asked Miss Duncan, and they had said that she had said she would, but the second she changed her mind is when I should have been notified. And I was never notified. Because those are not her property. And they did not notify me. No one notified me. I had no idea as to what was going on. I didn't even find out that they were in the dang animal control until like 5 days after the fact of me being arrested. 1, because I didn't have access to a phone. 2, because the jail never notified me, so that means that nobody ever called up to the jail because they do have to inform you if somebody does call it to the jail. And 3, I didn't find out until I called my dad and got out of jail. That's when I found out.
Okay, listen. In Chapter 6 of the City Ordinance, -61, so 6-61, this is what it says. Any animal that is impounded by a court order, a property manager on a release, or as a result of law enforcement action shall be held a minimum of 10 working days unless sooner claimed by the owner or family member or their designee.
And my dad is a family member, and my dad did call, and my dad does have it recorded that he called, that he did specifically ask someone there, I believe it was Officer Staten or Officer Vulu, because he told me
that he believed they were being held as evidence, and that he would have to speak to a supervisor.
And that was not my fault.
I understand that, but I'm just telling you what was said. And so then your dad was told to call back to speak to a supervisor, and he did not do that until the day I talked to you last week.
That's not true. My dad called up there about 4 times.
Well, that's the only time you spoke to a supervisor.
Well, that might have been the only time he spoke to a supervisor.
So what we did is because of that, because you believe that you weren't afforded the opportunity to get the dogs, we held them an additional 3 days.
You told me that you weren't going to hold my dogs. You told me that specifically. You told me you were not going to hold my dogs for me.
I'm not. I'm not going to continue to hold your dogs for you. I am not a boarding kennel.
I never said you were a boarding kennel, Stacy, but who the hell has $2,000? The average citizen does not have $2,000 whatever dollars to just drop on their dogs, and somebody could have afforded me some type of a payment plan. Everybody in the I mean, even judges that give traffic tickets give fucking payment plans.
They have that system set up. We don't. We don't have a payment plan.
You told me that you do have a payment plan system, and you usually do community service, and that I wouldn't be able to do it there because of the allegations against me. So there could be some other form of payment plan that could have been established.
Okay, but there's not. Yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe there should be, but there is not.
There should be. Just as though I suggested that it is not an animal's fault that it has to be put to sleep at a pound, and just as I suggested in the petition that you called and got upset about, that we as human beings should find other ways to keep animals alive, and one of those ways that we could do that is if we made it a requirement for high school graduates to have to do community service, because they did it at my high school, and giving them 3 options as to where they can do it at, the animal shelter, the nursing home, or the recycling facility, then that would solve a whole bunch of problems, because we live in a town of over 100,000 people, and they've got a whole kabillion amounts of kids. And that would also make it easier for us to get animals put out and people to understand what is going on. But nobody ever takes the suggestions of the citizen. Nobody ever takes the suggestions of the person trying to assist and help in a rescue. Nobody ever took any of my advice. But you know what? That's okay. Because I'm not the one that has to put a needle in an animal's arm every day, and I won't do it.
Yeah, well, be happy that you'll never have to do that.
I won't do it. You couldn't even pay me $1 million to do it. That's me.
Be happy. Be happy that you'll never be involved in that. Okay, is there anything else I can do for you?
No, I just need to know approximately how many days you're going to take to get me my open records request back.
I already told you that information.
You told me it was 10 working days.
There you go. So you don't need the answer to that question again.
Well, please try to get it back to me as soon as possible.
First of all, you need to get it turned in, because I can't do anything until you turn something in.
Oh, I'll turn it in here shortly. If it doesn't work on the internet, I will walk all the way down to your shelter. If it takes me all day to get there, I will do so in order to find that information out.
Okay, we close at 4.
I understand that. Thank you.
Bye.
She doesn't make any sense. Does she make any sense, honestly? She says she's not being biased. Does she sound like she's not being biased? I'm not being biased, but I'm not going to afford you an opportunity to get your dogs back, and I'm not going to afford you an opportunity